Captain Midnight.
This video will contain spoilers. So, I loved this one. Spider-Man Brand New Day is of course the first MCU Spider-Man movie without Jon Watts at the helm. And though I know it's become very popular to dislike those movies online now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I really enjoyed the home trilogy. So I was very interested, and a little nervous, to see what Destin Daniel Cretton would do behind the camera, with this series clearly going in a new direction after No Way Home. The trailers were promising, but seemed to show off a movie that could be really overstuffed, which has happened to the MCU on many occasions. Thankfully, I shouldn't have worried, because Brand New Day pulls it all off, and makes it look kind of easy too. I'm just very excited to talk about this one, to be honest. Before I do, I did want to let you know that I will be getting on camera to talk about something I'm pretty excited about at the end of this video.
Hey, tough guy. Sorry about that expensive lens, Punisher.
Something tells me we have the same objective here.
Let's get into Brand New Day, and I think I'll start with Peter Parker himself. We pick up after the events of No Way Home as the movie speeds through the next 4 years of his life, fighting crime, living alone, having basically zero life outside of the costume, and staving off his loneliness by following Ned and MJ online. What unfolds is a Peter Parker story that very much feels like it's taking inspiration from Spider-Man 2 and then turning it on its head. Tobey Maguire's Peter was dealing with the Spider-Man side of his life, eating away at everything else. He was sacrificing a relationship with Mary Jane, trying to hide the truth of Norman's death to Harry, and just generally appearing to be an unreliable and thoughtless person to everyone around him. Spider-Man was his burden, one that Peter didn't know if he wanted to keep carrying, and that manifested in the loss of his powers. Now in Brand New Day, Spider-Man is all that's keeping Peter Parker going. He has nothing else. He has no one else. His life has been whittled down to the responsibility, to the job. And as much as I would like to see a longer cut of this movie that shows us a bit more about Peter's non-Spidey life, I think what little we get of it really serves to emphasize that. He's just got nothing going on outside of the mask. And the way that he interacts with a friendly woman in his building shows that he's very consciously chosen to live like this. Sitting in his asbestos-filled warehouse apartment, going out on patrol, talking to Jean DeWolf about cases, and working through them with his tech at home, he's let all other aspects of his life go, not trying to recapture what he's lost at all. It's pretty bleak. The only indulgences that he seems to allow himself are watching Ned on social media and getting depressingly bad $5 pizza delivered. This is the life he's chosen, and in a way, it has worked. Spider-Man is a total professional now, wrapping up villains left and right. The public seems to overwhelmingly love him, and even Jameson isn't around to spoil that. I'm not really sure why. Maybe he got hired by whatever MCU presidential administration came after Thunderbolt Ross's or something. But Peter seems to be doing an incredible job as Spider-Man. I think this is why I'm less bothered by the where is Peter's money for his expensive tech coming from than most people seem to be. He's an incredibly smart, driven guy who has given up on everything else except being the best Spider-Man he can be. So I think he's capable of inventing and spending what little time he has on this stuff when there's literally nothing else for him to do. But it's clear that by the end of these 4 years, the cracks are starting to show. He can't live like this forever. He crashes Ned and MJ's party just to be around them again, but he can't bring himself to try to get back into their lives. He's letting the Peter Parker side of himself die, and he's letting that loss and that anger and frustration he feels about it just simmer. And this is where the inverse of that Spider-Man No More twist really forces him to confront that. Now, the idea that Peter gets these 2 bars to measure his human and arachnid side is very video gamey. It reminded me of like a BioWare RPG, or maybe more appropriately of the red suit, black suit alignment meter in the old Web of Shadows PS3 game. It's very blunt, and honestly, kind of a goofy storytelling device. I don't really mean that as a negative though. I think it's an engaging way to take a very internalized personal problem that Peter is having and blow it up into something with large dramatic stakes. And that's exactly what my favorite kind of superhero stories excel at. It's also not as simple as some like good bad meter. That's how Peter wants to treat it, and really, who can blame the guy? I probably would too if my eyes were turning black and I was hearing every water drop like a drummer in my ear. But suppressing the spider side of himself wasn't a clean answer, and actually inventing the means to do so might have some disastrous consequences down the line. I guess we'll see. It's getting to a balance between the two, and being willing to embrace these feelings that can save him from being the monster that he's so afraid of becoming. Still, I would have loved to watch a full man-spider scene, I'm not gonna lie. Holland spends a lot, maybe the majority of the runtime, in costume, and I loved that. And not just for the simple fanboy reason that this is the best looking Spider-Man costume he's gotten to wear. In old Golden and Silver Age comics and ancient superhero cartoons, you can see the heroes existing in costume in public all the time, doing stuff like getting the key to the city and hanging out like it's completely normal. Now, I love that, but I understand why a lot of contemporary superhero stuff thinks that would come off as too goofy. But here, there's actually a rock solid and tragic reason for Peter to be doing this. For those 4 years, he is Spider-Man. Being in that suit seems much more comfortable than going back to his non-existent Peter Parker life. And that's just good superhero drama. I mean, really, that's what this stuff is all about to me. The sensational and the ridiculous wrapped up in a real emotional core. The supporting cast also has some fantastic material here, with MJ and Ned making the most of their maybe comparatively reduced screen time. One of the strongest elements of the home trilogy was always this trio's chemistry, and how well those high school friendships were set up in the previous movies just pays off in spades in Brand New Day. I'm specifically thinking about the scene where Spidey hangs out with Ned and MJ and builds a Lego set. Now, this feels like a moment that could be in the previous movies. It's lighter and really charming, but where that tone is all over the home movies, it was really Peter's norm. Here, it's like an oasis in the desert for him. It's a short return to the life that he's convinced himself he can never have back. And that made it surprisingly moving for a scene where two guys sit around and quote Fellowship of the Ring. I don't want to shortchange how well Ned is served in this movie, because I think it actually goes to great lengths to show that Peter misses both him and MJ equally. But man, what Zendaya gets to do here is a real step above any previous material she's been given with the character. Now, I have always liked this MJ, and I think across the 4 movies, they've done a good job of having her grow from her sardonic and very high school kid personality in Homecoming to the more mature, less self-conscious version that we see here. But what might be Zendaya's best scene doesn't actually feature MJ at all, with Jean Grey hijacking her mind and playing games with Peter. As I watched it, I really thought about how the style and tone of Spider-Man stories has changed a lot through the decades and in different mediums, but nothing is more Peter Parker than being told everything you so desperately wanted to hear, only to have it ripped away from you a minute later. Now, I should probably talk about Jean Grey herself, and I'll get to her, but I'll be honest with you. I did not want to believe she was going to be the villain of this movie, and that's nothing against the character, but more a reaction to how uneven MCU crossovers have been over the years. The larger Marvel Universe connections have been a problem off and on in recent MCU movies. I mean, you look at Captain America Brave New World, and the way that it tied itself into both a Disney Plus show and the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie, and it was kind of disastrous how little that film worked with, or especially without, the knowledge of projects outside of the movie itself. I think Fantastic Four First Steps really benefited from getting to just be a Fantastic Four story. So I was a little worried that Brand New Day, with its Punisher, Hulk, and yes, X-Men connections, could have suffered from that. But one of the most impressive things about the movie to me is the way that these larger Marvel connections actually added to it and fit neatly within Peter Parker's story, instead of just feeling like an ad for another movie or existing purely as fan service. It threads that needle so well, and it kind of reminded me that when this Marvel Cinematic Universe thing got started, there was a reason I was excited to see these characters together on screen in the first place. I had gotten so used to these projects that cross over feeling clunky and poorly thought out that I had kind of forgotten that, oh wait, when this is done well, I really like this. Now maybe Punisher is kind of cheating. He did originate in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, Either way, I found Jon Bernthal's Punisher really great here, one of the highlights of the movie for sure. This lighter approach to the character provides some genuinely enjoyable, like, buddy cop comedy scenes, but more importantly, I think it really holds up a mirror to Peter's life and the path that he's going down, even if he doesn't turn into a giant spider monster. I mean, is it really any wonder that Peter, despite hating Frank's eagerness to kill, finds so much common ground with him? They're basically living the same life, isolated, always focused on the mission in front of them, and convinced that introducing anyone, any sense of normality into their lives would be an unnecessary risk. It is fun to see Spider-Man and Punisher share the screen, but it's also adding some important texture to Peter's story that doesn't feel like a fan-servicey distraction from it. And I would say the same of the Hulk. There's a great reason for him to be here beyond just getting into a cool fight with Spider-Man. Bruce is in a really unique position to talk to Peter about this struggle between his two competing selves, and it's the advice he gives him that allows Peter to make it past the Hand and to Jean at all. Now, getting back to Jean, I definitely enjoyed Sadie Sink. What could have been a pretty crass attempt to get us to buy into a new X-Men movie actually functions well as a redeemable villain with a compelling motivation. And, also does make me want to see the X-Men movie, so I guess they got me there. The VMAX thing, it just works. Like, I've watched an endless number of superhero movies where there's a MacGuffin serum or high-tech weapon or magical artifact, so to set one up and then actually make it an emotionally impactful reveal is a really nice change of pace. But okay, maybe it's time for some nitpicks too. I really love this one, and I don't have a lot of issues to air out, but there were some minor things. Peter Parker's voice has changed a lot, from a more generic American accent to kind of a New York specific one. Now, I understand why Holland would want to try this out. It makes the character feel a little more authentic, but I kinda thought it was distracting. The accent felt like it was going from barely there at all to kind of sounding like he was putting on the tough guy New Yorker accent that he used when he saved his classmates in Homecoming. I also found it a little frustrating that Peter was so trusting of damage control, because, come on, anyone could have seen this coming from a mile away, and it just makes him look like the most gullible dude in the world. Like, he got betrayed by Mysterio, and I guess he still hasn't learned his lesson after years on the job. Also, as someone who loves my evil buddy Tombstone, I was very let down by how little we actually got of him in this movie. Again, all minor gripes, and unlike a lot of MCU movies, none of them really have to do with how the movie looks. Aside from maybe wishing they filmed on actual rooftops more often, I think this is a much better looking film than the Home trilogy was. I will go to bat for Homecoming all day, but that climactic battle with Vulture is one of the movie's weakest moments, and that's not something that could be said of Brand New Day. With the movie building up to this fight with the Hand, that was a clear step up. I ended up being very impressed with Brand New Day. The pacing felt tight, despite how many characters they were juggling. It's a great Peter Parker story, and it features the best action we've seen from Spider-Man in the MCU. Now granted, I tend to like these Spider-Man movies. I don't think anyone will be shocked to hear that. But this one felt special. The MCU connections, the thing I was most worried about, were so natural and actually elevated Peter's story. It retains everything that I liked about this cast from the Home trilogy, while bringing a very confident style of its own to the table. This movie is kind of just everything I hoped it would be, and one of my favorite Spider-Man movies ever made. Tell me what you thought down below, and yeah, stick around for a few minutes. So it's been a few years since I've sat in front of the camera like this and really done anything where I'm just talking to you guys in this way. The reason I wanted to do it this time is because I think it's time for a little change. So I get asked a lot about older or more obscure TV shows or movies in the comments section, and a lot of the time it's just stuff that doesn't fit into a regular video. I thought it would be a really good idea to do a monthly Q&A on Patreon where you can ask any question you want, whether it's about TV, movies, games, the channel, and I could really sit down and talk to you like this, hopefully with, slightly more professional equipment, about anything that you have in your mind. Okay, so why now? Well, I know you guys know that I've had a lot of sponsorships on the channel over the years, but the fact is, as time's gone on, more and more of them have gotten really AI focused, and that's just not a direction I wanted to go in. And YouTube itself has changed. The algorithm now really prioritizes like just constant churn of new videos, which I don't want to complain about too much because honestly I do think it helps smaller and maybe newer channels. But for a channel like mine, it's kind of taken away the steady back catalog. You know, there's like Spider-Man and Simpsons videos that I used to be able to count on just aren't really performing anymore, which has made me stray away from trying out more like off the beaten path video topics, and that's just not where I want to be. Not to mention, the copyright trolling is just brutal now. I feel like I'm hit with another copyright claim every other week, and that makes a channel like mine pretty hard to run. Oh, so I know some of you are looking for updates on my comic, Binary C. The first issue did great, we fundraised for it, and we hit our goal, and that was amazing. But, you know, after the platform took their take, after printing and international shipping, I lost thousands of dollars on that comic. And you know, I do it again because I'm just so happy that it exists out there in the world. And the plan now is to package the rest of the first arc into like one trade paperback and get that out. But to do that, I have to be able to balance it with, you know, paying the rent and paying bills. So that's why Patreon. I have a $5 tier if you'd like to get those monthly Q&As, a $3 tier if you'd just like to support the channel, and higher tiers if you're looking to get your name in my radio in-screen. But if you'd like to support what I've been doing for 9 years now, you can go to the link down below. It should be right there in the pinned comment. And thank you for making all of this possible since 2017.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes too.